Hey, Joel. Good to see you. Matt, good to see you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sober Talk. You are here because you want to get sober, you need to get sober, or perhaps you're just sober curious. Whatever the reasons may be, we're glad you're here. How do you know if you have a drug or alcohol problem? Simple, if it causes problems. I've quit, restarted, wash, rinse, repeat more times than I can count. Hopefully together, this time will be the last. Jeff Graham coming to you from the coal room. And what did I want to say? The other just big deal. This show's about sober support. I want to reiterate, we're not doctors. We don't pretend to be. We're a couple of schleps that are just trying to get sober. I don't have the answers, but as a group with you, we do, and together we can find them. So glad everyone's here tonight. I want to open up the chat and make sure everyone's feeding in, both on the chat here and also on the Facebook, on the Sober Talk Live group page. If you're not a member, it's easy to join. Just look it up under Sober Talk Live, and you can find the group, and please join and throw in any comments there. I do have a couple people we're going to talk to, but first I did want to, someone asked me about sharing or offering advice, any of the kind of things that I guess talking to people, voicing their opinion, things because they were too new. I've talked to some people that are 2 weeks in, a month in, and they the question, why would I have something to say? I'm trying to figure this thing out myself. I was, years ago, in my 20s and 30s, I was really hit hard with anxiety. It destroyed me. It was really tough, and I went to several different doctors to learn about it, and I got lots of great advice from everyone, from these professionals, about how to cure this situation that was just dropping me to my knees and just tearing my life up. And every time I would ask these doctors, what did you do for your panic attacks or anxiety? And they'd say, well, I've never had them, but I'm going to tell you how to do it. And that's my thought on sobriety. There's a lot of doctors out there, and I'm not saying anything. If you're having issues with alcohol, I am completely for going through medical attention. I support hugely going through rehab, detox, all of that. But as far as getting advice on day-to-day living, I would rather hear it from people, I'm assuming all of you out there and guys like Tom, that are in the same boat as me. I think we have more expertise on being an alcoholic than any of these professionals that have the books marked out there. So for people that are not are nervous about sharing or offering their opinion or wanting to talk on this show, you have more experience and knowledge than you're ever going to realize, and I need to hear it from you. I think the listeners and the other people on these shows need to hear it from you. Everyone's input is something we can all gain from. So please don't hold back on that, because that's where we all learn. I think there's some people that feel you got to be 30 years in this business, or sobriety, 30 years under your belt before you are a master at this thing. I want to hear the guy or the gal that's just gotten through the first 30 days on how they've done it, because that is that's fresh to them. The emotions that I go through on a daily basis are going to be fresh to them. I think they can relate sometimes even more so than someone that's got a lot of time. But you'll always hear me say this: listen to anything and everyone, because the advice, I'll take whatever I can get, and I'm trying to fill my book of knowledge, my toolbox, with as much as I can to help me day to day. So, hey, Peggy Cooney, you here? Janet? Yes, she is. The first guest I have, we're going to give her a call. Peggy, I met in Sacramento, which is my hometown, just over in this past fall. Heard a little bit about her story, but she's an author. She works in social services education out with a local university out there. Really liked what I heard, and I thought she would be a fantastic person to bring on and just share some of her story, and we can kind of pick her brain. Please feel free to ask any questions you have for her in the chat. I do have my glasses that my daughter and wife make fun of. I've given up on trying to read without them, so too bad. So I hopefully can see the chat here, but please ask any questions, and we're going to get right in with Peggy. So hang on, where you are. There we go.
Hello.
Peggy, welcome to Sober Talk Live. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's great. I know it's a little earlier, 3 hours out there, so I appreciate, hopefully we're not ruining dinner, but our sobriety is more important than your family time, so too bad. We're glad to have you. So Peggy Cooney, but that's about all I can tell anyone, so tell us about yourself and your journey here.
Well, I'm really about 18 months out in sobriety right now. I really was one of those kind of a different story. I'm 68 years old, and I started drinking in my late 50s. So
you didn't start drinking until your 50s?
No. I drank a little. I drank socially every once in a while, but my parents were pretty big drinkers, and it wasn't something I wanted to do. So, there was, maybe some streaks in my 20s, football games, and, looking back on it, maybe it was pretty bingey kind of drinking. I didn't drink often, but when I did, I didn't ever drink one. That's kind of something I've discovered in the last, I don't know, doing the work to get sober. But, alcohol caused a lot of problems in my parents' marriage. It was a very violent marriage, and really it was fueled by alcohol. So it just wasn't something I was super interested in doing.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just curious. Was it because I knew as a kid, I think one of the reasons I went with just beer, because I knew, seeing my parents, that I had a good shot at being an alcoholic, which I didn't even know what the definition of that was. I just knew someone that drank too much. And I figured if I drank beer, I had a better shot, if not a good shot, of staying, becoming that word, which obviously worked so well for me. That's why I'm sitting here with you guys tonight. But I don't know. Did you know that, was your choice not to drink primarily because of, hey, I might be in this boat?
No, I never thought about, alcoholic wasn't a word. The A word wasn't something that was tossed around in my family. I think it was part of the middle class culture. My parents were very social. They, had card clubs. They had all these social events, lots of group camping, just a shitload of social events. And all of that went with alcohol. And my parents were like maybe a 2 or 3 martini kind of drinkers. I was very proud to be the 2 olive, 1 onion garnish maker for their martini. And that was a big deal for us to be. But I also knew, maybe not outright, that alcohol really wasn't a friend in our family. Usually every Christmas, every big holiday event sort of ended in some pretty crazy fights between my parents. So my brothers and I really grew up kind of an eggshell life, I guess you'd say, where, we really, and my mother was the bigger drinker. My dad was a happy drinker. So I think that, he got a pass, but my mom, was like a Jekyll and Hyde. So it just wasn't something that, that I was used to doing. Although as, actually done the sobriety work, like I said, I don't remember a time where I just had one drink. Like I
Yeah.
would go months and months without drinking. And then if I went out with my friends, we went to the 49er game and, we'd drink enough where we had to wait till all the cars left the parking lot so we could find ours. That did happen.
Before the little button that would send the horn going. It's funny you say that because I don't remember. And now I'm the one laying on the couch, but you're kind of making me realize why I hid drinking so much, but it was hidden from me. I don't remember seeing my parents ever drink. I saw them drunk. I saw the after effects, but I think it was hidden from me from an early age. And that's probably why I've hidden it my whole life. That's a whole nother topic, but interesting that you brought that up because I never saw the happy side of drinking until I saw it in myself at first.
Mm-hmm.
But back to you making the olives and the drinks, it's funny how we emulate. That was I wanted to drink as a kid Budweiser beer because of the Clydesdales. That's why I wanted, that was going to be the beer of choice because of the Clydesdales. But the glamour that you probably saw as a youngster, just with the clinking drinks and olives in them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, and so I, again, I really didn't. Alcohol wasn't a big issue to me, and I was I was a social worker, child welfare social worker, and adult protective services social worker. And there are so many of us in recovery that are in the medical field, that are in the social work field, that are in the coaching field, any kind of the helping field. And we probably are the last people that take care of our own selves. And I think out of that, the helping field people, first responders, really see some crazy abuse out there, crazy stuff, and there really isn't any place to put it. So I would say that my drinking started from seeing so much child abuse and also seeing so much wrong with the system, that the child welfare system can be broken in so many ways. And I think it takes its toll. And one of the ways that I came down from all that was to come home and have a couple glasses of wine.
Did you go straight from non-drinking into medicinal drinking? Because most people, I think it was for the fun, and then it becomes medicinal. At least that's how it was with me. But did you go straight into numbing the pain?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, again, you have to separate those wild, crazy days that you had in your 20s. But, through my 30s and 40s, I didn't, I rarely drank unless it was like a 40th birthday party or whatever. I didn't go out to dinner every night and have a drink. I didn't come home. It was strictly social. I didn't come home and drink a glass of wine. That was like crazy to me.
But from the start, when you had one, you wanted 2, 7, 12, 23. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So where did things go, or how did things start to go from, hey, this is helping me sleep and wiping out the troubles of the day to creating troubles of the next day?
Yeah. Well, about 2 years before I retired from my first job, which was not my first job, but my social work job, we had a pretty serious sexual harassment suit. And my boss, it was a female on a male, right? So we actually, this incident that happened hit the headline news of our, the biggest local news channel in Sacramento. And this particular coworker, he was an equal of mine, came to me and said, if they don't stop harassing me, which was my boss that was harassing him, if they didn't stop doing that to him, he was going to hurt himself. And so on top of all the secondary trauma that I had with child abuse, I also was a ostracized whistleblower for 2 years.
Oh,
That kind of upped up the ante of every day I went to work for 2 years. I put an app on my phone so I had 24 months to retire, to have my full retirement. I had some stubbornness in me. I wasn't going to let them win and kick me out. But my name was plastered all over the news as the whistleblower. I was told I wasn't telling the truth. I was really, really harassed at work. My life was hell, and that just kicked up the drinking.
See, that's a whole different deal, because what you would see, or what nurses, doctors in the field would see, what I was talking to a guy not too long ago, what he saw in the military, the trauma. That's a whole different. It makes me feel even guiltier about my drinking, because I didn't have those kind of issues to deal with. I mean, there's all the reasons. We all, I guess, end up in the same spot. But man, that's a tough road to, that you were on. I'm fortunate. I'm glad I didn't have to face some of the stuff I'm sure you saw.
Yeah, and there's still, we're getting better at taking care of that secondary trauma, but we're not there yet. But, that's also kind of a passion of mine as well. So anyway, I had 2 years to retire, and I put an app on my phone, but my stomach hurt every time I walked in the office. We had families saying, "Why should we trust you with our kids? Look what you did." And it was a shit show. So I got through that. I retired for 14 days, and a local university asked me to teach for them. And I was by that point, I had such low self-esteem. I'm like, why the hell would they want me to teach for, it's not even fairly reputable university. And I actually drank more. I was like, if they really knew who I was, they wouldn't have me teach. But I never lost a day's work. I went to work pretty hungover many times, but I had it down. I studied the curriculum to the max, and then I would drink after. But I think the more successful, which is really a very typical path for a lot of people that are pretty driven, is that the more successful I got, the more I drank, because I didn't think I deserved the success I had.
That is really interesting, because the guilt of success versus, I've heard someone talk about that before, that there's the guilt of failure and the guilt of success, that I don't deserve it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What did you mentioned trauma, and that's the second time I've heard that this week. I don't. What is your thoughts on that? Because when I think of trauma, I think of someone that went through 9/11, someone that was in the military, someone that. But I never. I don't know. I guess just because I never saw those things, I've thank God I've led a sheltered life in that sense, that I didn't have to deal with those things. But trauma is a word that's I'm starting to hear passed around in this community a little bit more.
Well, trauma is the basis of almost everybody drinking. So, and there's different kinds of trauma. There's inner city trauma, where, there's constant violence and you're in a constant state of anxiety. There is kind of slow growing trauma, little traumas that happen to you in your life that kind of add up. I think for me, that's what happened. I had some pretty minor childhood traumas, but then when the social work secondary trauma piled on, and then the kind of the ostracizing of me when I was a whistleblower, kind of was that tipping point for me, if that makes sense. And then there's other kinds of trauma, like natural disaster trauma, that kind of thing. But trauma is definitely the underlying kind of, if you look at an iceberg, the drinking is the ice that you see, and the trauma that you experience is underneath that waterline.
Yeah, it makes sense. I look again, this isn't the time or place for it, but I look at mine and just want to say I was a guy that I guess the soul searching of why I drank primarily was anxiety, lack of confidence, all those emotions that alcohol turned me into the guy that I never felt I was before alcohol. It gave me the courage, it gave the ability to talk to people, to handle situations I never would have done. It let me momentarily be someone that I probably wasn't in real life,
Yeah.
So where did things but I'll save that for the couch at another time. But so where did things go then?
Well, and again, I'm 68. This kind of happened in my mid 50s, so really over the last 10 years, really starting to have I have 3 grown children. They're in their 30s, and one just turned 41 yesterday. And more incidents started happening, right? Nothing happened at work. It was I pretty much taught during the day and broke my husband and my daughter's heart by night, if that makes sense. So, there were blackouts. And again, women have blackouts at an increasing rate as they get older because we don't metabolize alcohol the way men do. I was probably, I don't know, about a bottle a night. And then 2 years ago, I was selected an outstanding instructor out of about 1,750 instructors. And you'd think that I'd be like, oh, I have everything now, I'm going to really quit. And I didn't stop my drinking whatsoever. But what happened is my husband was, really kind of he got the brunt of all of it, because I could pretty much bullshit my way through everything except him. And because he saw the behavior, he saw the blackouts where I was functioning, but I was pretty incoherent. And this wasn't every night, but one of the scariest things about women drinkers is that I could drink one night and I would be totally fine, drink the same amount the next night, and be a whack job. So the anxiety that he had around, like, oh my God, what is she going to be tonight, was really kind of how I grew up as a kid. It got to be where I was hiding wine. I was lying about it. I was, if he asked me if I had anything to drink, I would say no. The blackouts were getting more frequent, where I had no idea what happened last night. And what's crazy is, I could tell if I screwed up the night before, it was because I could tell because my husband wasn't talking to me. He wouldn't bring me my coffee in the morning. So I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I blown it last night. But a lot of memory loss.
Elizabeth could tell I was drinking the night before because I would bring her coffee, and probably just trying to, oh, look at how happy life is, and she would just, okay, what the hell did you do? But I like you said, she's the one that suffered the most with my drinking, what she had to see, and the lies that I don't think she bought one of them. And I threw a lot of them at her, but I think she just whatever, kind of gave up on that, because I think I lied more than I told the truth. But yeah, I definitely put her through. She took. I can apologize till I die, and it won't be enough to her.
Well, I think it's behavior change. I mean, I think you can apologize all you want, but the the key is in your behavior and how you make those changes you need to make. I know, the other person that suffered in my life is my daughter, who lives very close to me, and I was, there's a couple incidents where I made an ass out of myself at a couple of the family weddings. I passed out at a Mother's Day at her mother-in-law's house. Although, yeah, and then what? I think the latest incident before the incident was I was at my another granddaughter's birthday party, and I drank too much there. I'm not. Maybe it's a subject for another time, but I am not. I thought it was just social butterfly, but what I found out is really the only times I really drank a lot were to deal with social situations. So,
Yeah.
I ended up drinking too much at the birthday party, and they had actually bought a hotel room for me so that they could go out to dinner and I can watch the grandbabies, and how, she has two sets of twins. How completely awful is it that they had to end up taking care of me and canceling their dinner trip. So lots of threats to get me to stop drinking. And on July 12th, 2019, we went to an annual family reunion at Lake Tahoe.
My favorite place.
And we rented this beautiful house, and I didn't drink all day because I don't, I'm pretty careful about not, my daughter was there. I didn't want to embarrass her in any way. Our relationship was kind of tenuous, and I didn't drink. And Paul and I came home to the house we rented, and I had a couple shots, but being in the sun all day, having those shots went right to my head. He got really, really pissed off, and my son and my daughter and my son-in-law and the four twins came in the door, and my son saw, walked in on Paul screaming at me and went after him, and my son-in-law had to pull Brett off of my husband, while my daughter and my grandchildren sat there and watched the whole thing in horror.
How old were the kids?
3 and 7.
Okay.
So it was a shit show. My husband left. He really left with no intention of ever coming back, and that was it was. I don't know if people really understand that social pain can be it hurts as much as physical pain. It registers. If you want to talk about somebody having a broken heart, I was really broken. I mean, I didn't really want to see the next day. And in the morning, my daughter sat down, and she's pretty reserved. She's more mature than I am. Sat down in front of me and said, "Mom, if you don't do something about your drinking, I can't have the relationship you want with me and the kids and Jason." And that was it for me. I absolutely knew at that point that I wasn't willing to lose her. There is absolutely no way.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just, how long ago was this? Just because you said you have 18 months? So was this that was just a year and a half ago that this happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I walked in, and I signed up for this weird program, Sober Sis, from Fort Worth, Texas, popped up on my Facebook, and I signed up, and it was for a 21-day reset, and my daughter said that's not enough, and I said it's the beginning, and she has a great program where we got hooked up with 25 other women across the United States. And one, Janet Bowman, is on right now listening to me. And
hey, Janet.
Yeah. So thanks. Yeah. And so I just threw myself into it. I mean, I I'm a 150% kind of person, and I just threw myself into sobriety. And my family didn't believe I was that serious, but I just went after it. You know, I did Annie Grace's program. I did Laura McCallan's program. I just threw myself into it. And
So you didn't do any? Did you do a rehab or any of that?
no, no. In
Or
fact, I didn't have any problems stopping drinking at all. Going back to that night, I know that well, after my daughter told me that I needed to change my ways, they went off and spent the day at the beach, thank God, and my son Brett stayed with me, and I had him take me to an AA meeting that night. He was crying, 35 years old, bawling his eyes out. And there was this really incredible man that came out from AA and said, came out and sat with Brett in the car and talked to him and praised him for bringing me down there. And yeah, and it's heartbreaking to see your kids look at you like that.
you were saying about the emotional pain. I would have rather my wife and my kids beat me than say, Dad, you're hurting us. That's I would have taken for Elizabeth. I would have loved it if she had smacked me, versus
right.
The emotional part was a hell of a lot worse to take. It was,
I mean, that's
you had said about the kid, apologies or whatever, to the family, and in AA they call it amends, if you've heard that, but when I apologized to my kids and to Elizabeth, all of them, and totally understandably, they said, "You know what, Dad? I don't want to hear those words from you. We've heard that so many times. That those words mean nothing, and it's going to be. It was show us, don't tell us, show us, and that's how you get it back."
I love that you say that, because what happened is, what I usually do is retreat. When my heart is broken like that, I usually retreat. But I went over, even if it was only for 5 minutes. I would go and visit the kids. We get manis and petties, and I put myself out there, because I knew that if I didn't put myself out there, I was gonna go inside, and I knew that was super dangerous for me.
Right.
So, I ended up, doing a lot of writing. I've published a couple articles. I'm done with my first draft of the book I'm writing.
What is I know you have a website. Well, let's do some shameless plugs. It's This Side of Alcohol is your.
Yeah. I have an ID account, and then we also have a private, anybody that's interested in getting some extra support for sobriety, or just getting curious about sobriety. I have a Facebook page, which is This Side of Alcohol, and then a website that is in construction right now. So it's not up
women
yet.
Only, or
Oh, no, that's men too. And then I also run a weekly Zoom meeting for some local people in Northern California. So I have my best friend and I, Susan, run that. And I'm, kind of my major passion is trying to figure out a way that we can bring some of this recovery stuff to child welfare parents, because right now, really all they have is AA, and I think AA is fine for whoever really likes AA, and that's great. They were really, I have a lot of gratitude for what AA did for me when I needed them. But right now, they have AA outpatient rehab and inpatient rehab, and it's expensive, and there is just so much recovery stuff out there right now, and so I kind of grand idea about how to bring affordable meetings to, to that population, because the opposite of addiction is connection. The only difference between them and me is that I have a bigger village, right? So,
well, the village is key for me. I have failed. Me alone does not work at all. I mean, I've proven that so many times. It wasn't even, the book smart, reading. I get a lot of instruction, but the talking with other people on the same journey for me is just mandatory. That was where that was what brought it all together. That put the emotional side as well as the educational side, I don't know, for lack of better words, but it brought everything together. It made me feel safe. It was talking with people that had the same fears, anxieties, regrets, shame, cravings, whatever. That's more important than any book for me. Yeah. Except for your book that's coming out. Except for your book, of course. That one.
I was going to say that you'll have to change your mind.
Yeah, of course. That's
one of the things I think is so important is that my husband, like, for the 10 years, and I'm not blaming him, but he certainly blamed and shamed me the whole time. And I think he would, and understandably so. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have done that. But the more he threatened me, the more he threatened to leave me, the more he called me weak and weak of character and all the names that he called me. It just pushed my drinking underground.
Yep, exactly.
Literally into the closet, literally under the seat of my car, and my drinking became more dangerous, and the blackouts increased because I was drinking fast. I would stop by on the way home, all that stuff everyone does, getting up in the morning saying, I'm not going to drink today. Teach all day, and then invariably stop at, the grocery store and get that bottle of wine and then, drink it before I got home.
Yeah.
Or, carried and put it, held my boots up, right? Wine bottles are great to hold your boots up.
God.
Yeah. But when he almost didn't come back, our marriage almost didn't make it. But when he read Annie Grace's This Naked Mind, and when he read not Alan Carr, it was William Porter's Alcohol Explained, he had a complete turnaround because he realized that there's so much science behind addiction.
Yeah. It's a never-ending, the knowledge I'm getting. In just talking to you tonight, I'm learning so much more about it. It's with your husband, as far as being angry with you, Elizabeth, she enjoyed when I drank 1 or 2 beers, and I think she misses that. I think she misses to have 1 or 2 beers out at a restaurant with her husband. But now she understands, and early, why can't you? Why do you have to have? Why can't you stop? Why can't you? Now she's finally realized, hey, there's something about him that can't. So she's beginning to realize it. But I think, she's glad I don't drink with her. But I think she misses that because we had a lot of fun. We had a great time when we were dating and newly, married. But sadly, she could stop, and that just gave me the go ahead. And then when she would go to bed, stories just come to mind. The wedding thing you had said about the embarrassment at the wedding. If my youngest son, if Bo's listening, while I'm in the safety net of others, Bo, I'm sorry about the wedding incident that Tom likes to laugh about. So I'll apologize now publicly for that one. So I think he's forgiven me for it. But yeah, that was close to the end for me. That was one of those stories that, well, I tell you. Well, look, Peggy, so you're doing, I have a couple other people I need to check in with. I want to have you back again, a couple, if you're up for it. I could listen to you all night long. You're incredible story. But you're doing great now, I guess. What's your closing advice to someone that's listening that wants to get started on this?
You can't do it alone. You cannot do this thing alone. You have to connect with another sober person, and I would say find some sober friends. And I think for me, I've built up such an accountability. I'm writing. I have, my own account. I have my own Facebook page. If I went back now, it wouldn't be very good, right? Like my boss knows. My daughter. I have my daughter's blessing, and I would just say that no day sober. I mean, it is sober days are so much better than any day that I ever drank, and I think really keeping in mind that I almost lost everything.
Oh yeah, right there.
I'm not willing to do that. So
it's so true, and the clearing of just on this thing. I think my kids were in the last year. They've heard some of the stories and some of the things that Dad has said publicly that maybe they were kind of, hey, I really, do you have to tell that one, Dad? Can't you just sugarcoat that one a little bit? But it's liberating for me, and I think for them as well, because I've pretty much dumped everything on the table for them. There's a couple of ones that I'll sneak in here and there, but for the most part, they know everything, and that was really tough for me, but it was also extremely liberating. And I think it also helped them understand their dad and some of the reasons. I don't know. But, well, Peggy, you are unbelievable. I could talk to you all night and would love to have you back on. I think we got all the links in the site, and I'll put some of the links to your the Facebook, the Instagram, whatever. I think I have those. If not, I'll text you and get those posted as well. But thanks so much for coming on.
Yep.
Really,
thanks for having
me. Incredible. So, Peggy Cooney from California, have a great one, and good luck, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Have a great night.
Bye.
We'll see you. Thanks. Wow, that was awesome. I'm going to Tom wanted me to tell the story, the wedding story. I'm going to call another new guy that's I just met recently as well. I want to bring him into the show, but my son, one of his best friend's weddings, and I'm sorry, family, for doing this, but Tom brought this out of me. But anyways, I trying to be funny, went up and cut in on the groom and bride and groom on their first dance. But to be funny, I cut in to dance with the groom, and it was really, really funny, at least to me. No one else saw it that way. So that was the story that Tom loves to. Yeah, that was a painful night. That was actually probably just a couple of days before I called it quits on this thing. So anyways, want to call a new guy, Lee. Check in with him. He wanted to say hello. Lee.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Sober Talk. Good to have you.
Man, good to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, I wanted to bring you in. I had run into Lee on, actually it was an AA meeting a couple of times, and had some really good stuff, but I don't know your story, and give us the abridged version of what happened, where you are, and kind of fill us in a little bit about you and give us some pointers.
Sure, yeah, the abridged version of my story.
Drank, fell down, got up, went to recovery, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I'm 40 years old. I grew up in a Christian church, in a Christian community. My grandfather was a recovering alcoholic. I had an uncle who was a recovering alcoholic, so I had heard the term. Grew up, thinking, drinking alcohol was a sin, was innately wrong. And so I stayed away from it as much as possible in my early years. And then one time I tried it, and from the very beginning I drank differently than people around me. You know, I always drink too much.
Right from the from the start, it went right into
from
it.
the very start. Yeah, the first time I ever drank alcohol, I had a weird side job. I don't know how I got it. I was pretty young. I couldn't even tell you for sure, maybe 14. But I got a job power washing a lady's garage door in a neighboring town. And she had left, I think, if I remember correctly, and there was a bottle of wine on the counter, and I remember thinking, oh man, I'm not supposed to drink that. That's the bad stuff. And I drank some and drank too much, and then I remember writing my name on the garage door with the power washer. And then I think I called my dad and told him a story. I wasn't feeling good or something. Come pick me up. And so all those years ago, I stole the alcohol that I drank. I overindulged, and then I lied about it to my family. And my story, that sums up my story, man.
Was sure you went overboard, but were those the happy times? I mean, was it fun drinking at that point, or was it messed up from the start?
Yeah, that wasn't very fun. I don't remember that being fun. The next time I drank was with my best friend, and we were probably, I don't know, 17 or 18. And again, we went to a park and drank an entire bottle of Parrots Bay rum, because that's what you do, right? You just drink until you fall over. And again, you know, we laughed, but I don't remember that being all that fun. We got arrested and ended up sitting in a jail cell for 4 or 5 hours sobering up. So yeah,
how long have you been sober now?
Well, God willing, I'm coming up on 3 years in about a month.
Oh, fantastic. I hit a year in Super Bowl weekend for me.
So that's so amazing. Good for you, man. It's really good.
So was your path littered with attempts and failures, or were you wanting, did you get it done the first time? How'd you do it?
Yeah, well, you know, my drinking career, even though it started off with a lot of heavy drinking from time to time, I didn't really drink all that much until later on in life. And so, you know, in my 30s is when I started to drink more. And then about probably 8 years ago now, I really ramped up. My drinking really ramped up and started to become a compulsion, a daily compulsion. And those last few years, I was drinking every single day and hiding it.
Did it creep up on you, or was there an event that kicked gears? Because for me, it crept up. Just one day I realized I'm no longer doing this for fun. I thought I was, but there was nothing fun about it. It was to function. But I don't know when that day happened, and I don't think there was any one event that caused it to make that change. It just did.
Yeah, I mean, what I know is that I have a disease, and it's called alcohol abuse disorder. It's a progressive disease, and eventually it'll kill me if I keep drinking. And yeah, there were a few events that happened over time that, you know, you can call it a trigger event, but it didn't trigger me to start drinking habitually. It just triggered me to drink a little bit heavier than I was just before then. And, you know, I tell people jokingly all the time that I'm the kind of guy that if you feed me a ham sandwich every day at 1 o'clock for 10 days in a row, I'm going to eat a ham sandwich every single day for the rest of my life. You know, everything is habitual. Everything becomes habitual for me. So, I think as soon as,
for me, yes, except those things that are good for you. Those are the ones that
that's pretty funny.
No, that's sad but true. It's the stuff that's bad for me. chewing tobacco in college. Boom, hooked.
Absolutely.
You know.
I was a smoker for 12 years, and then I used Nicorette and nicotine lozenges to quit smoking. And then I sucked on nicotine lozenges for like 7 years after I quit smoking.
I've got friends that
didn't kick that habit till after I got sober.
I could name names, Lee. I could name names on that one.
Yeah.
That are same way. They're just, and I guess it's better. I don't know, but yeah, that I know exactly what you're saying though. It's one habit for another. I just I couldn't find a happy. Now, did you ever do the NA, because the non-alcoholic stuff? Because I've been asked about that, and for me, that's I can't. I got a distance from it. I would still be too close. The taste, knowing how weak my head is, I guarantee you, I could have a non-alcoholic beer and catch a buzz at first, just because a placebo effect that I knew was a placebo, and it would still hit me that way. But I just can't do it, and I'm all for people that can. More power to you. Just that doesn't work for me. Did you do that?
You mean non-alcoholic beer?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't personally see a reason why to drink something that tastes close to the thing that is poison for my body.
It's
So
like
I'll stay
decaf
away from
coffee
that
or caffeine-free Diet Pepsi. What's the purpose?
Yeah, I hear that.
So go back though, as far as failed attempts. How was your? You got 18 months going right now. What was?
Yeah, almost. Yeah,
almost 3 years. Well, I'm sorry, 3 years.
Oh, that's okay. One day at a time, man. Right? It doesn't how much they add up. It doesn't really matter. It's just really about today and tomorrow. Yeah, I never got sober, quote unquote, or tried to get sober officially. But I did try to stop drinking many, many, many times. And, it's kind of crushing, when you're out there on your own, you're hiding this thing from the people you love most. The habit in my life had really gotten to a point where I was treating everybody around me very poorly. I was stealing to buy alcohol, and I was hurting everybody in my life that I loved the most. And it, you kind of end up, I tell people sometimes, trying to quit on my own ended me up just sitting in my garage by myself, drinking a bottle of whiskey that I hid from my wife. And I was just kind of out there by myself, and there were definitely times I tried to quit. There's online tests you can take, and kind of check mark each of these things. If you check off any of these items in this list, you might be an alcoholic. And I tell people all the time that that's one of the only tests in my life that I passed with flying colors.
Yep.
I checked off every single one of those things on that list. I remember reading some of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous way before I got sober, and I remember time and time again trying my hardest to stop. And maybe I put 1 or 2 days back to back in those last years, maybe. I remember one time I went out of town to see some family, and wasn't really going to be around much alcohol. And I remember telling myself over and over, this is it. I'm going to stop drinking right now. And, fast forward 24 hours, and I'm walking through the snow to the nearest town to go find someplace to buy something, and it's just the same old story over and over. I could not stop. And then February 5th, 2018 came around, and through a few events that I won't share on here just to protect the people involved, someone very dear to me challenged me and started to see the evidence in my life that I was doing some stuff to buy the alcohol and stuff where I shouldn't have been. And someone really important to me kind of checked me on that. And that was really the last straw. I saw that I was going to lose some stuff that I really, really cared about, some relationships that were more important to me than anything. And I stayed up all night that last night, and I felt like this is it. I honestly feel like my higher power, who I call God, spoke to me that night, sort of, or at least I felt like I had this message inside of me that wasn't coming from me that said, hey, if you just admit you have a problem, I'm going to meet you there. And so that next morning, I told my wife, I think I had a problem. And she said, yeah, I know. I know. It's obvious.
I was curious if there was a single event, and you don't have to go to the details, but that's, and for me, it was a couple towards the end, but I was the same the night when it hit the fan. That night I looked up rehab facilities, probably the day, it might've been the day before. And I think I drank that night, even though I had found one or whatever. And then the final straw happened. And I remember waking up in the morning, and I told my wife, I said, I'm checking myself in. I'll be back in a week. I hope you're here, but I understand either way. And she offered to take me in, and I said, no, I don't even, I don't know why, but I just felt I got to do this. And I drove myself in. That was, that test, you might have a drink, do you have a drinking problem? I've taken those too. And the only reason I didn't get an A+ on it was I think I missed one or two because my hand was shaking so bad I filled in the wrong circle by mistake. But that's the only reason I didn't, graduate magna cum laude with from that test. But boy, that was,
pretty good.
The whole admitting, like saying to your wife, or more importantly, when you said that, you got that voice saying that self-admitting, it's harder for me, it was harder to admit to myself. Even I knew it for a long, long time, but to finally admit it, just that was a tough, but one thing, and I got to let you go here, and we only got a minute or so left, but you hear about rock bottom, you hear high bottom, low bottom. What's your opinion? Can you quit? Can you quit before you're ready? Because I knew I needed to quit and I should quit, but I still enjoyed drinking. I could still, I drink way too much. I really need to quit, but I was still enjoying it. And I don't think there's any way in hell I wonder if you can, I'm sure people do, but for me, it almost seems impossible. If I'm still enjoying drinking, I don't think I ever could have quit.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know about other people, but, for me, I needed to be desperate, and I think high bottom, low bottom drunks, that really refers to external circumstance, what happens in people's lives outside of themselves.
Great point.
Have they lost everything? Are they living under a bridge? Some of the stuff we hear in the rooms all the time, right?
Yeah.
But I was given the gift of desperation just 5-6 years into my daily drinking, and I'm grateful that I got that desperation when I did. I remember thinking after I had tried to quit Christmas of 2017 and it didn't work, I remember going into 2018 thinking, I'm going to die this way. I'm going to drink every single day for the rest of my life, and it's going to kill me. And that was it. That was it. And then I got some external help from my brother, actually, who really had a heart-to-heart with me that helped kind of really push me toward the edge of being ready to admit I had a problem. And I'm so grateful for that. And I know we got to go, but I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
For well over 4 years, I drank every single day, and I tried to quit countless times, and I could not put 2 days together. And the moment that I admitted I had a problem, something miraculous happened, and I did not drink the next day or the next day or over 1,000 days since. There is power in our story. And, to the person who is still drinking or struggling, or like, I think you said something like, sober curious out there. I would just say that if you think you have a problem, find someone to talk to about it. Cause there's power in community and there's power in relationship. And, you don't have to drink every day until you die.
I would, we do have to roll, but I would love to talk to you another time, because one of the things you brought up, I think would be
absolutely.
a great topic, is having, I'd love to hear more on, because you've been through it, but a sibling talking to a sibling about, how do you do that? Talk to your brother or sister, that that they have a drinking problem. That's a whole nother, I think I can live the spouse. I can relate to that. I can relate to kids telling a parent, but how a sibling, I'm curious how all that was handled and how that was received. That would be a great story from you.
Yeah.
Joel had put in, we were talking about non-alcoholic, said, I drink non-alcoholic vodka now. Joel, that's called water. Okay. So, nice. Yeah, that's great. But no, very, very, very good. Lee, thanks so much. Definitely want to have you back on. I think, you opened up a whole bunch of topics that, I want to learn and discuss on this thing. There's so much that's going to strengthen me and keep me on the road I want to go. And like we said, and like you said about talking to someone, there's no way I can do this myself. And it's people like yourself that, that's my success. That's how I'm going to do it. So thanks so much for coming on. And,
oh man, thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm super grateful to be here.
Yeah. Have a great weekend. And, all right, everyone, I'm going to, I wanted to hit the button to close out because it sounds so professional, but like Tom does. And have a great weekend. I think Tom will be on tomorrow night, and then I'll be back next Tuesday and Thursday as well. If anyone's got in the chats on the Facebook page questions or suggestions, topics, any of that, if you'd like to be on, Tom and I are always looking for people that want to share their story for free. And get no compensation whatsoever. We will even take payment to put you on the air. So any of that works out well. So anyways, everyone have a great weekend. Thanks so much. And tool up, everyone. Be safe.